My girlfriend and I have been dating for a while now, long enough for marriage to be considered. At least, it used to be considered. Now, I just have no idea. We met when I was 20 and she was 19. We recently celebrated our 3rd anniversary with a night out on the town, grabbing a few drinks and sitting down at one of those nice, fancy restaurants we had always wanted to visit. Overall, the night was perfect. Candlelit dinner, expensive wine, typical romance with some great lovemaking to end the night. Little did I know, it would be the last normal night of our relationship. I woke up the next morning with a sense of nostalgia. After the night we had, plus the idea of marriage floating around in my head, I decided I wanted to recollect together. She had been in the shower while I lay in bed, and she stayed there long enough for me to decide to reminisce on my own. At first, I was just looking through old pictures on my phone. Our first date, our first kiss, our anniversary photos. I am a memory guy, what can I say? Anyway, as I kept scrolling, I remembered something. Back when she moved in, my girlfriend had brought a bunch of old pictures from when she was younger. She kept them in our attic, and neither of us had ever thought to look through them together. I had shown her my old pictures plenty of times, even the ones I was embarrassed of. If I am being honest, I kind of got a little peeved when I realized she had not returned the gesture. I realize now that she was not embarrassed by the photos. She was actually hiding them from me. I climbed the ladder to the attic and shifted through a bunch of old boxes until I found the one that my girlfriend had brought with her all those months ago. I blew the dust off the box and began sifting through the photos. The ones on top were perfectly normal. Polaroids she had taken back at her parents' house. Some selfies with her and her girlfriends. The typical stuff. However, as I dug deeper, I grew more and more concerned. The Polaroids stopped having color. My girlfriend stayed the same, but the photographs began to look decades old. Some were of her propped up against a jukebox. Some were of her at civil rights protests. Hell, one was just her leaning up against the hood of an old muscle car from back in the day. She seemed to be looking through me in every single photo. Each photo looked grainier than the last. Her clothes changed. Her hair changed. Her style, as a whole, changed. Her face did not. It looked like she was not aging at all. I figured it was some kind of art thing. Some experimental stuff she was doing. I wanted to believe that maybe she had just been using a different camera, but the numbers written on each picture were enough to make me second-guess myself. 2000, 1990, 1980, 1970, all the way to the last picture with the numbers 1947 written across the bottom. Part of me wanted to laugh, but another part of me was utterly terrified, not by the pictures themselves, but by the birth certificate that dated back to August 9th, 1912. As I stared at the date, my heart sank, not by what I was seeing, but by the sound of the shower water stopping and the bathroom door opening slowly before my girlfriend's voice sang out. "Honey, you are not looking at those old pictures, are you?" This happened a while back at one of the bigger local malls in Georgia. I was 19 at the time, but like my sister and cousin, I have always looked significantly younger than my actual age. My sister was 12 and my female cousin was 16. To anyone glancing at us, we probably looked like 3 teenagers out shopping together, none of us appearing over 18. That detail ended up matching more than I could have imagined. We were just wandering around, window shopping, grabbing snacks, and enjoying a regular day out as family. The mall was not overly crowded, but it had the usual weekend foot traffic. We were walking through one of the main corridors when this woman suddenly approached us. She looked disheveled, messy hair, clothes that had clearly been worn for a while, and an anxious, almost desperate energy about her. She was probably in her 40s or 50s. She zeroed in on me immediately and asked if she could borrow my phone. Her story was that she had been at the mall shopping for 2 days straight and no one would come pick her up. She claimed she had been calling her ride repeatedly with no success. Something about it felt off right away. The way her eyes darted around and how intensely she focused on us. But she seemed genuinely distressed, and I did not want to be the kind of person who ignores someone in need. Against my better judgment, I handed her my phone. She put the call on speaker without me asking. The first number she dialed went straight to that robotic message. This number has been disconnected or is no longer in service. She did not react much, just muttered something under her breath and immediately tried another number. This time it rang through to voicemail. What followed was uncomfortable and increasingly strange. She started rambling into the phone, her voice getting louder and more frantic. She went on about how she had been calling for days, how they knew she was at the mall shopping, and how she did not understand why they would not answer or come get her. Then she pivoted and started describing us, me, my sister, and my cousin, in detail. She told the voicemail that these 3 nice young girls, even though I was 19, had been kind enough to let her use their phone. She described our appearances, our ages, guessing younger than we were, what we were wearing, and even how we were sticking together. Hearing a stranger narrate us back to some unknown person on a voicemail made my skin crawl. It felt like she was reporting our details to someone, almost like she was marking us. The second she handed the phone back to me, I snatched it, told my sister and cousin we needed to go right now, and quickly led them away. I knew exactly where I wanted to go, the alternative store a short distance down the corridor. It was one of those shops with edgy clothing, band merch, posters, and a staff that always seemed friendly and protective toward younger customers. I had shopped there before and remembered how the employees would chat with teens and keep an eye on things. I figured if anyone would help us or at least create a safe buffer, it would be the people in there. We ducked inside, weaving through the racks of dark clothes and accessories, trying to act casual while my heart pounded. We had not even been in the store for a few minutes when I spotted her again through the entrance. She walked straight in, eyes scanning the aisles with that same desperate intensity. She started asking employees and other shoppers if they had seen 3 young girls matching our description. She was persistent, moving through the store with purpose, describing us again to anyone who would listen. The store staff noticed something was off. They started positioning themselves near us and subtly redirected her questions. I whispered to my sister and cousin to stay close behind a display of hoodies and jewelry, keeping low and out of direct sight. The fact that I had chosen this specific store because I knew the people inside would help us probably saved us from a worse confrontation right then. The situation escalated quickly after that. She eventually left the store, but did not leave the area. From what we could gather later, she began following another family that somewhat resembled us. Again, 3 younger-looking females. Mall security was called when her behavior turned erratic and aggressive. When they confronted her near the upper level, she apparently tried to throw herself off the top floor railing of the mall. It was chaotic. Security had to physically intervene to stop her while other shoppers backed away. We stayed hidden in the alternative store until things calmed down, with the staff checking in on us and making sure we felt safe. Once the immediate threat passed, we got out of the mall as fast as possible, sticking close together and constantly looking over our shoulders. I still do not know what her actual intentions were. The disconnected number, the rambling voicemail where she described us in detail, the way she fixated on following us, and then latching onto another similar group. It felt predatory, like she was trying to document us or draw us into something bigger and more dangerous. That day could have gone very differently if I had not trusted my gut and headed straight for the alternative store where I knew we would have backup. This happened decades ago. My uncle was a psychologist in Oregon, and he helped me get a summer job. I went there to intern in the clinic and see if that was a career I might be interested in. There was a local religious group in that area back then. They had their own community that was sectioned off. They talked about things like freedom, love, surrender, and all of that. Everyone I knew said the group was weird and creepy. I never thought much about it. I try not to judge. One Friday, a lady at work invited me to one of the gatherings. It was going to be that Friday night. She said there would be music, food, meditation, dancing, and honest conversations. I told her I was busy. She asked what I had to do instead. I lied and said I did not have a car and would not have a ride there. She offered to take me and said group members would be happy to pick me up. I told more lies, and she had an answer for all of them. If you ever find yourself telling lies to a stranger just to uphold boundaries, that is probably because the other person is overstepping. I was uncomfortable for a reason. And by the way, I could have just said no, but that was not my style. I would much rather come up with an excuse and have the other person respect my excuse. It works with 99.99999% of people. I ended up going that night. When I got there, it was very much like I had expected. People were hugging really hard and talking about freedom. There was music playing, and some people were dancing. There was a lot going on there. The woman from work took me around and introduced me to people. At one point, they stopped the music to talk to the guests for the night. That was the first I learned that I was not the only guest there. I do not remember too much about their speech, but it got really weird when they started talking about their teacher. That was when I knew this was the absolute last time I would ever go to that place. Before that, it just felt like I was awkwardly out of place at a party during my season of saying yes. But once they started speaking about this teacher, I was not having it. They were praising him way too much, and they were literally worshiping him. I did not like that. I tried to leave right when the speeches were over. I told the woman who invited me that I was heading out. She said they were just getting started. She suggested that I stay the night to get a better understanding. I told her I had work in the morning. This was a Friday night, and she asked how I had work on a Saturday. I said I meant that thing with my uncle. We went back and forth. My lies were inconsistent. I am not a good liar. Eventually, she asked if I was afraid. I said I had to go and I was sorry. Then I left and went straight to the parking lot. That was the last time I spoke to the group. I still saw that woman at work sometimes, but I think we both avoided the topic on purpose. I have a feeling she was afraid that I would tell other people at work about the whole experience and I would frame it as a really weird cult. This was before HIPAA. It makes me feel really old to say that, but we still had rules about patient privacy and confidentiality. That lady had access to all our patients' data. When I have told this story to people, they think that might have been the most concerning part. I do not know though. I do not think there is much she could have done with that other than send flyers. I do not think most of our patients were all that vulnerable. This all happened around the end of July that year. I left Oregon only a week or two later. I did not think about that group again. A few years later, the news came out about what some people in that community had done. It turned out that members of the group had deliberately contaminated produce with salmonella to keep people from voting in a local election. Hundreds of people got sick. When I heard that, I was horrified, but I was not really surprised. I thought about how I really dodged a bullet. If I had joined the group or stayed with the group, I could have been brainwashed too. A lot of people who joined were probably skeptical at first, but it probably grew on them. If I had gone to 3 or 4 more meetings, maybe I would have also stopped feeling uncomfortable there, and I might have also started to get into it. Would I have reached a point where I was trying to poison the community too? There are many articles and even entire books about that group. People have reported other evil things they did. I do not know which things are proven and which ones are not, but I would bet the salad poisoning was not the only time they tried to hurt people. The real lesson for me is to uphold your boundaries. I knew my boundaries were being pushed when I started lying about why I could not go. The fact that I was in that position was a red flag. If anything even remotely similar happened again, I would not let it run over my boundaries. Things were never the same after we moved. I always thought moving back into my grandmother's residence would feel like coming home. The creaking floors, the draft slipping through the attic door, the faint smell of damp would mixed with decades of old perfume. I told myself it would be comforting. I told myself it was familiar. It was safe. I was so wrong. Lily adapted quickly, of course. She bounced from room to room, exploring the nooks and corners of the old manor, delighting in the way sunlight slanted through dusty blinds in the afternoons. That is when she started talking about a new friend. "Oh, Mother, you have to meet Mara," she chirped one morning, tugging my hand toward the living room. I smiled, assuming it was a classmate from preschool, as I adjusted her little backpack. "That is nice, Lily. What is Mara like?" "She is super funny," Lily said, giggling. "And she likes my crayons." I nodded, imagining the other children in Lily's class, the way kids attach themselves to new companions. It felt normal, at least at first, but a small tug of unease tickled at the back of my mind, like static electricity crawling along my spine. That night, after tucking her in and kissing her forehead, I went to the kitchen to wash the dishes. I was rinsing a plate when I heard her voice again, low and urgent. "Mara likes it here." I froze, glancing around the empty living room. Lily was not there. She was in her room upstairs. "Lily," I called softly. No response. I pressed my forehead to the counter, pretending everything was normal, but I could feel my heart pound through my chest. The hairs on the back of my neck prickled. Shadows pooled in the corners, thick and heavy, as if waiting. Later that night, I awoke and found Lily sitting cross-legged on her bedroom floor, whispering to the air. Words I did not understand, sentences that did not make sense. "I am not ready. You would not leave me, right?" I pressed closer to the doorway, heart hammering. This was not a preschool friend. Mara did not exist, not in any way I could see, touch, or understand. I immediately questioned Lily, but she seemed to be sleep-talking again. After I tucked her back into bed, I climbed in beside her, letting the warmth of her small body lull me into sleep. The next morning, Lily was coloring at the kitchen table, oblivious to my tight grip on the edge of the counter. "Mother," she said suddenly, voice soft and serious. "Mara wants your hair." I stopped what I was doing. The fork in my hand clattered onto the table. The words did not sound like a child's joke. There was no trace of humor, no hesitation, no playful grin. Just certainty. I blinked, stunned. My mouth opened, closed, opened again. No more jokes, I told myself, heart thundering. Lily tilted her head and smiled faintly, unaware of the tension twisting the air around us. She says it will make her feel pretty. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to shake her. I wanted to tell her that Mara was imaginary, that this was a sick joke of a game. But the chill crawling along my spine told me it was not. This was not a game. After a few nights of catching Lily whispering to herself, I could not shake the unease. I decided to take her to a child therapist, hoping for some rational explanation. Dr. Hansen was kind and professional, nodding as Lily described Mara and their little conversations. After listening carefully, she smiled reassuringly at me. "Imaginary friends are completely normal at this age," she said. "They are a healthy part of creativity and emotional growth. There is nothing unnatural here, and nothing to worry about." I left the office feeling a little lighter, clutching Lily's hand. Part of me wanted to believe her, that Mara was just a figment of imagination, a harmless playmate. But another part, the part that lingered in the old house at night, could not shake the sense that something was not right. The days that followed were a slow, suffocating descent into dread. Shadows seemed to stretch longer than they should, crawling across the walls at angles that defied the sunlight spilling through the blinds. The house responded to our presence. Footsteps echoed when no one was there. Drawers creaked open, then slammed shut. Lily became increasingly confident in her conversations with Mara. "She likes this," she would say, arranging her toys in precise formations. "And she says your skin is so shiny and smooth." I found myself imagining Mara, pale, impossibly still, mimicking Lily's smallest gestures. Every laugh, every tilt of her head seemed rehearsed. Even though Mara was not real, the house seemed to bend around her presence, as if learning, listening. One evening, Lily whispered from the top of the stairs, "Mara wants to see you, Mommy." I froze on the couch, clutching a pillow to my chest. "Lily, you have to go to bed," I said, voice tighter than I intended. "She says you need to come," Lily replied, eyes wide, unwavering. Something in the air shifted. A draft brushed along my neck. The lights flickered faintly. I told myself it was electrical, that I was imagining things. But the way Lily's eyes gleamed, the way the air seemed heavier around her, told me otherwise. Sleep became impossible. I would lie awake listening to soft, scratching noises from the walls, small, deliberate taps that did not sound like rodents or old plumbing. Sometimes I thought I heard whispering in the corners, low, urgent, words just beyond understanding. One night, I woke to the feeling of fingers brushing my cheek. Gentle, almost affectionate. I froze. "Mom," Lily whispered, "Mara's preparing." I swung on the light, and for a split second, I thought I saw it. A pale, wrong face emerging from the shadows. It had eyes like mine, a smile that looked forcefully stretched as if pins were being used to make out expressions. But the body, though I saw it only for a brief moment as the room was showered in light, I knew it was tall and inhuman. I screamed, and I heard Lily giggle, her small, high-pitched laugh sending chills down my spine. The next day, I searched for new homes. I even went around asking in town about the paranormal. Every glance in reflective surfaces became a test of sanity. A lingering look in a window, and I thought I saw movement just out of sync with my own. A shadow that did not match my own. A whisper in my ear when I was alone. And Lily was complicit. She would giggle, tilt her head, and speak in a voice that was not hers. "Mara says it is almost time." That was the final straw. It was time to leave, no matter how much Lily complained that Mara would be left behind. I did not care. The house was unnervingly still. When I entered Lily's bedroom, it was empty. My heart pounded in my throat. I called her name. No response. The shadows in the corners of the rooms seemed to thicken. I ran outside and froze. There she was, my beloved daughter. Lily was standing in the yard, yet she was holding hands with something that should not exist. It was taller than any man I had ever seen, pale, impossibly grotesque, and almost human, but wrong in every way. Its face, it had flayed skin, stitched together in uneven patches, unfinished, with a smile that mirrored me too perfectly, making my stomach twist. Lily's hand squeezed mine from across the distance, her little grin bright and innocent. "Mara says thank you," she said, and the words felt like ice crawling through my veins. I could not move. My legs would not obey. I could only watch as the thing tilted its head, studying me, learning me, taking me in piece by piece. The shadows of the house stretched toward us, thick and dark, as if they were reaching for me too. Lily laughed softly, and that laugh, my daughter's, yet not, echoed, and I realized, with a sinking certainty that left my chest hollow, that whatever Mara was, it was not finished. It was still learning, still growing, and it had decided it would take my place.